Welcome to the Wolverine Confidential Podcast, your source for University of Michigan athletics news. I am Andrew Kahn.
I'm Ryan Zook.
I am Aaron McMahon.
This is one where we really regret not having the video podcast anymore because Ryan is wearing a shirt with just little tiny giraffes all over it.
Yes, giraffes, not camels, Andrew.
I did call it a camel when I first spotted him on the way by.
New fashion statement today. I think it's a nice shirt.
I will say this. Zook has been more fashionable in the last week than I think I've seen him in the last, 4 years.
Yeah, the weather's changing. Golf polos are out.
Yeah, well, this is
and
still
then
a
tomorrow
short
when I come in, I'll probably wear a golf polo.
It's still a short sleeve shirt.
I know.
It's no different as far as the weather. It seems even more kind of summery than.
I think it looks good.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean it's
showing a little chest hair and everything.
It's unique. It's different. No, absolutely.
Is there sports to talk about today too? Or?
Well, of course. I mean, Major League Baseball playoffs are starting.
That is true. Who are the Mets face?
The Mets finished their season with a very emotional weekend with David Wright's essentially his retirement happening the same time as Michigan was playing Northwestern, and I had to go back and watch some of that stuff after the fact, and it's a very emotional day. Tears were shed all around, but yeah. I was not at the Northwestern game. Aaron was there. Michigan got off to an incredibly slow start. And not too many games where one team scores the first 17 and then the other team scores the last 20 and wins it.
Yeah, I think it was the first time they said Jim Harbaugh, as a coach at Michigan, has fell down by 17 points and come back to win. I think the slow start is concerning. This isn't the first time Michigan has done that this year. You saw it at Notre Dame. Notre Dame was, a quality opponent, and you saw that Michigan wasn't able to come back and win. SMU, they got off to a slow start and didn't fall behind that much, but it was a slow start, and they were able to put on the Jets and go off to. And you guys covered that game, and they were able to win comfortably. This game took 3.5 quarters, give or take a few minutes. The defense, I thought, again, was slow. It's been, to me, it's a little concerning. They're the number one ranked defense in the country right now from a yardage standpoint. So I think they've been adjusting well, and that's always been, I think, since Don Brown got here, the defense is always, there was halftime, whatever the case may be, they've adjusted well. But you've seen now two games where they've given up, a couple touchdowns, and in the case on Saturday, a couple touchdowns in the field goal. And then force the offense to come back. Now the offense did, but I think if you're a Michigan fan right now, you're a little worried. This wasn't the start I think you'd expect against Northwestern, a team you're favored by. I think it ended up being 13 or 14 points. So it's a win is a win. They are 4-1.
I mean, some of the things weren't schematic though early on. It wasn't necessarily let's see what they're doing and adjust to it. Some of it was, but some of it, I mean, that first the big play that set up the first touchdown. I mean, there were just several missed tackles on that, and it seemed like what should have been a decent game turned into a huge one. Because of that, there were quarterback and receivers not really on the same page, or there's several completions even that seemed like they should have gone for more. And I don't know if it was poor blocking or poor. Just not good running after the catch in some cases. That's definitely an area I think Michigan still needs to work on is running after the catch with some of their wide receivers on some of these screen passes and things.
I know Aaron mentioned too, I wrote about this either yesterday or the day before, is the penalties continue to kill them. I think it's starting to get out of hand at this point, averaging over 80 yards in penalties per game. You're not going to beat good teams when you're getting flagged that often.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's a part of, Aaron and I were talking about this the other day, it's kind of a part of defense in a way. If overall your defense is doing its job, who cares if some of these things are negatives, but, the defense could be even better, I guess, is maybe the thought without some of these penalties.
Yeah, and we brought up this, I think, last week or a couple of weeks ago, but they've gotten away with it so far. It hasn't really hurt them. You saw it a little bit early on against Northwestern. I think there were those 2 touchdown drives. I believe it was 2 touchdown drives. One, they had a pass interference call on David Long, and another they had a holding call.
Turning around to find the ball.
Yeah. And then a holding on Lavert Hill. So it's those things are going to hurt you against a better quality opponent. They helped bury them a hole early. They were able to get out of it. But this is basically, and we've talked about, this is the same defensive grew basically from last year. There isn't too much change. Same guys, same scheme, same philosophy, but they're averaging more than 30 yards more of penalty yards a game. So they can't keep doing it. They're going to get burnt at some point. The coaches are aware of that. The players are aware of it. The players are brought up on their own. They say that this can't keep happening. You can be upset with penalties all day long, the judgment calls and everything else, but a penalty's a penalty, and it's it's going to hurt them at some point.
Yeah, I mean, again, you use this phrase, a win is a win, and that is the objective of a sporting event. But, you have to look at some of the other better teams in the Big Ten. They Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan State, I guess even they when they play these weaker teams, they usually beat them pretty handily. I mean, I know Penn State got off to a slow start, I guess, against Illinois a few weeks ago, but they ended up winning the game by 39 points. So, yeah, I mean, Northwestern, I'm not saying is, just a weak team, but they had lost their last two at home to Duke and Akron. So,
yeah, I don't know what to say about this team at this point. Coming into the Northwestern game, they gave you a little optimism. They come off a couple of blowout wins. The Nebraska game I thought was impressive, and then in some degree I thought they laid an egg at Northwestern. It wasn't their best effort on either side of the ball. I think you saw a little different dynamic this week from Shea Patterson and using his legs later on in the game, which I think will come in handy as we move forward. But I wasn't impressed walking out of Evanston thinking, this team could in theory win 9 or 10 games. Now I don't know. Now the game against Wisconsin and the game against Michigan State and Penn State, it's like, I don't know if this team's, if they get off to a slow start like that, they're not going to be able to come back. They're not going to be able to dig themselves out of a hole like they did at Northwestern.
Those teams all have their flaws as well, too. I mean, they haven't been lighting the world on fire outside of Ohio State. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've all struggled.
I think Penn State redeemed itself a little bit Saturday night. I thought they looked good against Ohio State. They let it slip away. That was a game they should have won.
Imagine if Jim Harbaugh ran that play on 4th down. Mm-hmm. Penn State did to lose the game.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of flack for him.
And
James Franklin got his fair share of criticism too. Yeah,
he did.
I thought Penn State looked good though. I mean, they handled Wisconsin. They played with Ohio State well. I think Ohio State by and far is the best team in the Big Ten. But Penn State, I think at this point to me, I think Penn State's number 2.
That was the first time definitely. Dwayne Haskins actually looked human out there.
Yeah, no, defensively Penn State was all over them early. Ohio State couldn't do anything in the first half, really. It'll be interesting. Michigan gets a Maryland team this Saturday that's very, right up there, I think top 15 defensively. Obviously have had plenty of issues off the field. They've kind of been hot and cold. Some win over Texas that is continuing to look better, but then just blown out by Temple. I will not be there. I have a wedding to go to. I mean, Aaron, you can relate to this. What is wrong with these people that have weddings during college football season? I mean, I don't know if you're willing to bash, your friend who had one. I miss friend, but I'll do it on this one for my guy.
Luckily, we have a very capable replacement for you lined up.
We have a replacement. We do have a replacement. There's no doubt about that.
I will say this. I missed our listeners who aren't aware, readers who aren't aware, I missed the SMU game because of a wedding. One of my best friends, got hitched. To his credit, or I don't know, his detriment, I don't know, when his brother is an assistant football coach here for a Division III school here in the state of Michigan. I won't name names or schools, but they had a game that day as well. He had to go to Chicago, and he's an assistant coach on the staff, and he went for the game. He missed his own brother's wedding because it was on a Saturday in football.
Interesting.
So I feel kind of bad complaining because his own brother missed it. But it is what it is. I told him it's fine. I don't think he picked the date. I think it was his wife.
Right. But, it is a partnership there. Brian, you have an update on some of the future Wolverines.
Yes, I went to Belleville again to check out a couple U of M commits, and they had a big game against Dearborn Fordson. Both teams entered the game 5-0. Great game, went back and forth. Belleville trailed at halftime, 17-14, fought back. Took a 23-20 lead. Fordson had a field goal attempt in the last minute to tie the game. Short field goal, missed a wide right. Belleville hangs on to win. Cornerback, what's his name? Andre Selden had another strong game. Junior 3-star.
What is he, like 5'8"?
Yeah, he's 5'8", 100. He's listed at 150 pounds. Coach Jermaine Crowell said he's said he's 165 pounds, but he looks more 150 than 165. But he
I can ask.
He was the punt returner and had a couple long punt and kick returns. A couple of them were called back because of penalties, but I mean, you could see the quickness, explosion, really stood out. He had probably the biggest hit of the game too, with a Dearborn Fortson running back took the ball in a jet sweep and was cutting outside, and Selden followed him to the sideline and absolutely laid him out. And the guy that was down for a while, clean hit, no penalty on the play, and that Crowell said like that's what he can bring. Like he's a dynamic player. Was looking forward to talking with Selden after the game, and then found out afterwards that no Belleville players are talking to the media for the rest of the season
because of some hit pieces that you had written earlier.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's Belleville against the media for the rest of the season, I guess. But Crowell said it was the players' decision that some of the players were getting big heads, and they wanted to focus on themselves and not let anyone's heads get bigger than the team. And
do you buy that?
Yeah,
it's really hard to buy, I guess. But I mean, kind of just gotta go with what Coach says, I guess.
I find it hard to believe that a big-headed high school kid would want to stop talking to the media.
The funny thing is, so I was on the sideline that game, actually just taking video for highlights, and sure enough, I was tweeting highlights throughout the game. And then after the game, a bunch of the players are retweeting my highlights, liking my highlights.
There you go.
It's
right now,
that
sounds. Aaron's exactly right. I mean, that sounds a little counterintuitive, I guess. It sounds like exactly something the coach would recommend.
Exactly. So, I mean, they have 15 or so Division I recruits. They have a couple 5-stars. Devontae Dobbs is going to Michigan State. Damon Payne is a sophomore offensive and defensive lineman. He's got offers from Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, MSU. I mean, if you look at the AP top 15 rankings, he pretty much has an offer from all those schools. So, I mean, there's a lot of talent there. And, I mean, maybe they haven't really blown away good competition this year too. So I don't know what's going on there. We'll see if that changes. But as of right now, it looks like no Belleville players will be speaking to the media.
You didn't know that till
no. So the Detroit News was there, Detroit Free Press. We had 2 reporters there, me and Jared Purcell, who covers Detroit area preps, and we were quite surprised when we found out we were not allowed to speak with. The coach apologized afterwards and said, he should have let us know beforehand. But I mean, we had to write what we got from Coach. So
sure.
There was also Tyrese Woods, a senior defensive lineman, who also committed to Michigan. Didn't play that much. He's been battling a hamstring growing injury for much of the year, and I mean, he didn't really stand out to me. He had a couple plays where he got in the backfield and disrupted what Fortson was doing on offense, but he didn't play much, and you could tell he's probably been battling an injury. Hard to really gauge with what his potential is when you could tell he's lost a step or two, but we'll see if he can. I mean, those are lingering injuries too, so I don't know if he'll be healthy at all, completely healthy for the rest of the year. But Crowell said he still he's still one of their best linemen out there, and they have. You look at their complete offensive and defensive linemen; they're all going D1. So
yeah. Will this mean less coverage of Belleville then? I mean, I don't listen if this is like being discussed internally at live. I don't want to get you in trouble.
I don't. Well, it's something we'll have to discuss. Yeah,
I mean, it's just I don't know if you saw like Oklahoma State coach Mike Gundy had a little bit of an issue last week, and it's not the same thing, but a player had transferred, and he basically said, anyone who asks about him, we're shutting down this whole operation, no more access at all, which is just. Such a
to me, this has come up before. Other coaches, not Harbaugh here at Michigan, but other schools have tried doing this before. I can remember Texas trying to keep reporters from using social media during press conferences, things like that. But it frustrates me because you got to remind these coaches in these schools that they are funded, their salaries and their schools and athletic departments are funded by taxpayer dollars. And in most cases, some schools not, like Northwestern, that's private. But you got to remind them, we're doing a job. You were getting paid a lot of money. The least you could do is accommodate us in some degree. And to threaten to, I think, in the case of the instance you're talking about,
Yeah,
that
Oklahoma State,
that they threatened to like ban bar reporters from future access. So
right.
To me, it's silly. It's like, guys, it's a football game. Like, this isn't that big of a deal.
Correct, and I mean, they just don't. They're really not. It's very closed-minded, and to not realize how it's going to backfire is just silly. I mean, of course, this is going to get out, and it's just. This isn't the same thing. They're not threatening kind of the reporters and saying, you can't do this. They're just saying we're not making them available. And, I guess it could be considered a little bit different at the high school level versus college or pro. But
at the high school level, I've never seen that before.
Right.
It's at least the high school level. It's more difficult to write about a kid if you can't talk to him. It's one thing you can observe them in a game and maybe get stats from the season, but they're still young and people are still learning and finding things out about this kid. So it behooves. It's good for a reporter to actually sit down and interview a kid. Plus, I think it helps kids with their interview skills and dealing with the media going into college. Now, granted, some of these kids have they're probably bothered by reporters all the time, those recruiting websites and everything else, but. I don't know. It's just, to me, you hear this every now and then from schools and players, and to me, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I was there a few weeks ago too, and I talked to Selden, and he was excited to talk with me. It was after a win. He had 3 interceptions. I talked to Tyrese Woods as well, and so it must have been like in recent weeks where they made this decision to not speak with media. But it didn't seem like they had any objection talking to media after their Livonia Churchill game. I think in week 2. So yeah, we'll see what that means moving forward.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And we sent 2 reporters there because we were planning on speaking with both of the Michigan State recruits, both of the U of M guys, and had a few stories planned out. But obviously plans changed a little bit. But I mean, that's part of the business too, right. I guess.
I feel like the basketball practice happened since our last pod. I'm trying to, it seems so long ago now. I don't know. Read my stuff on mlive.com, all right? But yeah, I don't know. Beeline spoke to the media, for the first time, and they had a practice that was open for an hour, but they didn't scrimmage or anything like that.
That was my question. How much?
No, they didn't do it in front of us at least. So it was basically just, you watch them doing some different kind of shooting drills, and that really isn't this team's strength right now, I wouldn't say, as a whole. So I guess it would be easy to come away thinking that they didn't look that good. But again, that would just be unfair to kind of make those claims or make those observations kind of one way or the other.
Especially in one hour session.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, they open. I think it's the second. It's whatever the Friday is there in early November.
Second, it's my birthday.
All right, it's Friday. There you go. Friday. All right.
Woo!
Yep, exhibition game. Yep, that you had to you covered last year. That game essentially that would have been on the 3rd though. But yeah,
right.
Anyway,
did anything stand out to you just from a observational standpoint about any players or any?
Yeah, I mean, having seen them in Spain too, kind of got the early look at them, but John Teskey is going to be, trying to shoot threes this season at least, as their center. We expect, a couple of the freshmen are going to have to contribute just from a sort of a numbers standpoint on this roster, and Iggy Brazdeikis and Brandon Johns seem like the first two that would be those options. So yeah, we'll see. We've got media day coming up in just a couple weeks, maybe actually might be next week.
Coming up, basketball season is creeping.
Yeah, it's coming. Watch out, it's coming to this pod too.
Well, hockey season's even closer.
There we go.
Saturday, U of M hockey team opening up against Vermont. Went to practice. Real game. Yeah. Okay. Then they have an exhibition on
Catamounts
on Sunday. Went to practice yesterday. Spoke with head coach Mel Pearson. Defenseman Quinn Hughes, who's decided to return to Michigan for his sophomore year. We've talked about him a lot on this pod before. Early Hobie Baker possible candidate. Should be one of the best defensemen in college hockey. Spoke with him. Spoke with Josh Norris, another first-round pick from last year, coming back for his sophomore year, who was recently just traded for Eric Carlson. and spoke to Captain Joseph Ciccone as well. So there's a lot to like about this Wolverines team heading into the year. As I mentioned last week, they're fourth in the U.S. College Hockey Online preseason rankings, picked to finish second in the Big Ten behind Ohio State. And, I mean, if you look at their defensemen, they have 5 of 6 starters returning, led by Ciccone and Quinn Hughes, who Pearson said is probably the best defensive pairing in college hockey. They were paired together midway through last year and were a big part in the team getting to the Frozen Four, and they should be paired together this year. And forwards, obviously losing the production of their top line in Tony Calderon, Cooper Marody, and Dexter Danks. That's a lot of points they'll have to make up this year. But they have Will Lockwood coming back, who missed all of the second half of last year with a shoulder injury. He's a former third-round pick of the Vancouver Canucks. He's back, healthy, should be playing top 6 minutes this year. They also have a Luke Morgan, who had to sit out all of last year. He's a transfer from Lake Superior State, and he had 22 points as a freshman, so he'll be counted on to help replace some of that offensive production as well. So in front of the goaltending situation, I really like their team, and Hayden Levine, who is a junior this year, will be the starting goaltender to start the year, and he had a great second half last year, but he struggled early on last season, and he still has a lot to prove. Can't really prove much in just one half of a season. So behind him, there's 2 freshman goalies that will have to pick up the slack if Levine struggles out of the gate or if there's any sort of injuries or whatnot. So that's the one position group I'm going to be focused on early this season. Because we talked about this in the past too, is their goaltending. And if Michigan has struggled with goaltending in the past, and if Levine plays anything like he did in the second half of last year, I think they'll be a top 5 team as they're predicted to be. But if you have to play those freshman goaltenders, his name is Strauss Mann. Nice. Interesting, I know, pretty great name. He killed it in the USHL last year with a 1.86 goals against average, 932 save percentage, which is incredibly high for juniors. He won the Clark Cup too, but again, it's a whole different ballgame when you get to the college level. It's very rare you see a freshman goalie come in and become a star right away. So that will be one thing. We'll see. Levine will probably get most of the starts early on, but I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe getting a freshman or two into some of these exhibition games they have in non-conference games early on. It should be a fun team to watch this year.
All right, well, it's not hockey season yet, right? So I'll just focus.
4 days. 4 days.
Yeah, so Michigan, Maryland this Saturday, football field.
It's funny, we were talking about penalties earlier. Maryland is even more penalized than Michigan. Michigan, in most of these statistical categories from the penalty standpoint, they are 12 out of 14 Big Ten teams. Maryland and Nebraska are usually behind them. So,
can you bet the over in penalty yards?
Both are averaging about a little over 9 penalties a game, so it could be a heavily penalized game. But like you were talking about earlier, Maryland does a good job of stopping the run. Mm-hmm. Chris Evans' status remains, I think Jim Harbaugh said Monday night, questionable. So Michigan may have to throw the ball a little bit more. We've been waiting for it for a while. We keep talking about it. I think it's going to have to happen eventually. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think Maryland's a better team than Nebraska. It's a better team than Northwestern. So I think Michigan's going to have its hands full. I don't have a prediction yet. I think it'll end up being probably a 1 or 2 score game. But I think it'll be closer than maybe some folks think.
It's homecoming game, noon kick. Harbaugh said homecoming, one of his favorite words in the English language. So I know that can be the word of the day for our listeners in the Czech Republic. And then we know the Penn State game. The Wisconsin game. The next week is a prime time game. A lot of people then were asking me. So they were asking you. Well, what else? What about Penn State? What about this? What about that? And we just don't know and won't. The rules are. Like they're always changing. I mean, would you know, though, like sort of the same time you learned about this, the Monday before, the
Correct.
2 Mondays before,
so
in a sense?
Kickoff times are typically released. I get this question often. Mm-hmm. Kickoff times are typically released 12 days before kickoff.
Yeah.
So
if it's a night game or just regardless?
Well, that's where it gets convoluted here. Typically, a day game can be released 12 days in advance. Now, if it's an afternoon or night game, they can wait up until I think it's 6 days. So we got the night game 12 days in advance. I would assume hearing something, so it'll be next Monday. I'm on Penn State this following Monday. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's a night game as well. That thing is tricky because we were told last year.
It'd be two, right? I mean, because then you got Michigan State, then Penn State. So,
correct,
if it's going to be the same time, yeah.
Correct. So I don't know. It remains to be seen. We keep hearing the Michigan State game might be a night game. But that's
in East Lansing, but yes.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's up to the TV networks. They're the ones making the call. They make the decisions. That the schools have no call, no choice over the matter. So yeah, I mean, Michigan State could be one, Penn State could be one. Ohio State's already been announced as a noon. We'll see, and then you got the other games too.
That's pretty much it. I mean, they're at Rutgers, but that's that might be late. That's the second weekend in November. There was a rule with that, with the Big Ten, with how late in November that they could be vetoing it.
That's right.
Though I guess it'd be. I think both teams have to agree to it. So
correct.
You wouldn't think that'd be, and certainly the next to last game at home against Indiana would not be at night either. I don't think so. It basically comes down to that as far as home games, that Penn State game,
which could be. We were told last year Michigan's only supposed to have 3 in 2 years. Well, they had 2 last year. This would be this upcoming Wisconsin game is going to be 3. But I guess that's up for debate. I don't know. We're told that now it's not. So we'll see. It's up to the TV networks make the call. We'll find out in a week or so. But yeah, Wisconsin is 7:30 under the lights on ABC.
All right. Well, we'll be back at it with coverage of the Maryland game, looking ahead to Wisconsin next week on Wolverine Confidential. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.